All right, then let's go. Alicia Ann Reaney here, out for a walk. Reaney is my little best dog friend. She is a scruffy terrier schnauzer mix. This is Sustainable Events Dog Walk, a short podcast from Positive Impact Event Consulting, where you can get a quick nugget about sustainability for your events and event business while on a walk with Alicia and her dog Reaney. Sustainability is a big project, but we'll get there together, one little step at a time. Heyo, who's got two thumbs and figured out their audio issues? It's not Reaney, it's this guy. Apparently, my loose-fitting summer clothes and pounding my feet into the ground create so much background noise that I had to create a new strategy. So now I'm trying to remember all those early 2000s movies about people becoming princesses and pageant queens to help me walk more gently. I've talked pretty consistently on the podcast about how there will be ramifications, there will be fines and fees and oversight in the future that will make us better at sustainability, whether we are ready or like it or not. And so today I thought I'd go over a few of the questions and scenarios that you can envision will be the source of those so that you can be preempting it and see whether it feels like something that's urgent to you. Now, as my friend Mark at Alpha Tooth talks about on LinkedIn, the strongest tool that we have to drive this change as planners or as organizers or even as clients is in the RFP process. Setting it down in writing formally as part of the contract, part of the proposal from the beginning codifies our intentions more than other conversation or general meetings and understandings between us. And right now it is the standard in Seattle and the greater United States to focus on client pressure, like I've talked about before. And because of our ability to search around for someone who will provide the service we're looking for, people who are looking for sustainability may not have found you to ask you about it, but that is the primary method of enforcement. Is clients who have CSRs they need to report, who are doing better for those reasons, or are nonprofits in the fields and need to be setting an example. And so that's why consumer pressure is not a safe judge of whether this is a priority. What you can see in places where it is more of a priority to the local institutions and governments is that they have set out secondary rules and enforcement that are making it more necessary and incentivized to make more sustainable choices. And you might be thinking, as I have thought, that as a free agent business, how are these enforcements going to come? How can it even be judged? There's going to be a lot of up in the air, basically the same as our taxes as independent business owners, right? Like, how can anyone track what my business is doing, what my clients are paying for, those sorts of things? It's not even necessarily all going through your business. Who pays the vendors varies by circumstance, all that jazz. It's very dispersed information, hard to collect the data. Wow, crows, wow. And what that means, wow, is this a joke? I'm being pranked by the crows. And what that means is oversight is going to fall to the stationary businesses. Things like your catering vendors who already have other food permits are going to incur more oversight, and the destination management organizations and visitors bureaus are going to start scrutinizing more and using their venues as models. Come on, dog face. Meow, meow. Come on. And it's going to fall on venues, and especially small independently owned venues that don't have big corporations supporting them and filing their paperwork for them and making their excuses and paying their lobbyists. And in fact, it is part of the advice that I give to venues to start enacting tighter controls and oversight to give people an idea of this future and how it's going to go, and start getting the consumers used to it. Things like tracking and reporting energy use on site during events, even investing in the infrastructure to be able to track that electricity and water with more detail. Things like tracking waste disposal, charging fees for filling the dumpster. But that also comes with reducing the friction on bringing in rentals, making sure that they're delivery facilities and understanding with the staff of how to facilitate deliveries and pickups, etc. And whatever you have heard is probably along the lines of how convoluted it is right now, that there's a chain of reporting where everyone is basically being told that they are responsible for reporting on behalf of whatever services they employ. The thing is, this is not a good system. This is all going to be a mess. And that's one of the reasons I want to help you get ahead of it. The other thing that's a real mess, and one of the reasons I never talk about carbon footprints and trying to measure or track your carbon footprint, is because what we have seen historically for 200 years is that the capitalist system of measuring outcomes incentivizes us to use tricks to manipulate the outcome instead of doing a really good job on the intent of the rule. And when you get down to the letter versus the intent of the law and arguing and quibbling over the little bit, you know you've lost track of the purpose. And that's definitely what we're going to see. We're going to see an even bigger market for offsets, where you can buy carbon offsets, water offsets, all that sort of stuff. And it's going to be really hard to regulate, and they're going to be not very trustworthy. And it's just going to be a shortcut that doesn't impact positively on what we're doing, and instead does the thing that has happened with everything else in the supply chain, which is create a new market rather than a true solution. Rather than selling us less plastic, all of the companies, all the plastic companies especially, want to sell us more recycling or different kinds of plastic. So it's about not falling for the trick that you can pay for a solution to your logistical woes, and instead actually plan ahead and do logistically better. And honestly, things are really bad. We're in a really tough spot, both environmentally and socially. We are driving toward being in a worse spot from a social economic perspective, but also we are living in the modern future with more solutions. We've solved more problems than ever. So there's a lot of reason for optimism. So we just have to pay attention and take advantage of doing better with the solutions that are out there and not fall for the trap of trying to buy our way out of a situation that we don't want to deal with. So whether you started listening because of your own conscience or the business case or articles or other podcasts, hopefully the threat of more oversights and more fees and more intervention makes you want to take this on and retain your autonomy. Unfortunately, there is not a world where supervision does not come into existence, but if you self-manage and stay ahead of the curve, then it won't interfere with your life. So if you have questions about this or any other elements of event sustainability, I would love to hear them. I have a Google form link in the podcast description, as well as an email address where you can address me directly. I'd love to know what is on your mind this summer. I'll be back with you next week, and more ideas, tips, tricks, inspiration, referrals, and recommendations for making your events more sustainable. See ya! Thanks for joining me on Sustainable Events Dog Walk. I'm Alicia Druby, founder of Positive Impact Event Consulting, and I want to help you integrate sustainability into your event business so you're ready to make every event you work on more sustainable. See you next time.